Hey, everybody. I am raw. I'm coming in here pretty vulnerable. My hair just doesn't want to take a curl today. I've got my granny slippers on. They're just all chewed up by Pepe. But boy, it has been an intense couple of days again. But I've had a really beautiful revelation today that I think is really important to share. And it has to do with breaking into the unknown. And I had an experience yesterday that I am going to share because that's what I'm seeing, that these daily tune-ins and when I used to do those to peace talks have been about just taking my own experience of this ascension journey and understanding it, translating it into the language of higher intelligence, of expansion, of understanding, of knowledge, and taking our paths and our individual experiences and making light of them, creating them, translating them into light, because sometimes the darkness is pretty deep, and when we know how to transmute that into light, we expand, we grow, we ascend, and that's the whole point of this whole process. um so what I'm, and excuse me, because I will tell you, I am like very like disoriented today. We've had I don't even know, I lost count, but in the last 24 hours, I think we're close to like 30 solar flares. I know we were in the low 20s and we've had quite a few today. I had been knocked out, I took a nap a couple hours ago, like a solid 2 hour nap, and just was like, had to force myself up. Not that I had to, but I knew I had to get up and kind of get ready for the peace talks and stuff. And wanted to take the dogs out. And as I was like, okay, I got to get up. And like I could barely peel my eyes open. It was such a hard, deep sleep. And my body all day has felt heavy. But when I say heavy, I don't mean like heavy emotionally, but just like lifting my arms, like, oh, and so getting myself up from that nap felt like a monumental thing. And then like trying to put my hair together, I was like, this is fine. This is good. So I'd like to share a little bit about the last couple of days, because it really has been beautiful, and it also has been a little bit challenging. And I know many of us are experiencing some challenges, just emotionally, mentally, physically. This is a really intense wave. The tsunami we've been talking about, and then opening up that into that, or like kind of dumping into and converging with that 1212 portal. Holy Moses! Like holy Moses! I didn't I didn't expect it to be this intense. And yet it's exciting because it feels like things are speeding up, things are accelerating, and we've been talking about an acceleration. So as I mentioned on the 1212 portal, I was very intentional about that day. I decided to take that day to schedule a flight back with my dogs to the States. And if you're new here, this is probably close to the 10th flight that I have I've booked and had to cancel because the something wrong with the dogs. So got them both, finally had success and got them both confirmed. And I was, spent Tuesday packing, giving away stuff to my neighbors. And then Wednesday got an email from the cargo company that is contracted with Turkish Airlines, and they said that I couldn't take the dogs for a reason. And I was very, I didn't go into a spiral like I have prior, but I was just very bummed out. And yesterday, I guess like throughout the night, Wednesday night into Thursday, I did wake up in the middle of the night and I felt deep sadness. I felt loss. I felt some grief, and I sat in it, and I started to notice a little bit different of an experience with it. There was an and I'm going to do my best to describe this, but it because I think we're in the realms of new experiences with emotions. Not that I think I know. Um, so all of that was present, grief and loss. I was so excited to see my boys here in the next couple of weeks. And then just sitting in, like, I felt like, what if I don't ever see them again? What if I don't ever get back? What if, like, all of these weird, thoughts were going through. And then they weren't with fear. It was more me coming to terms, like, okay, what if? And as I sat with those, I felt grief, I felt loss, and I felt sadness. And yet there was an emptiness with it. There wasn't an attachment. They didn't attach on. And what I also noticed is that there was not the willingness for my being, my mind, to give it a story. I knew why I was feeling that, but how we sometimes get attached to a story, that wasn't, not that it wasn't allowed, that wasn't just happening. So it was just kind of like I was watching and observing these emotions go through until, like, till they were done and I fell back asleep. And I thought that was really interesting because it wasn't this, like, deep turmoil, like churning underneath the wave kind of thing, like I've known in the past. So yesterday morning, I woke up, went for my walk up the mountain with the dogs, and as I walked, I was feeling the same stuff. I was feeling, grief and loss, just kind of like, here. And when I got to the top, it was sunny. The sun was out. It was actually really beautiful. And I was sitting there, and all of a sudden, I just needed to purge. And that purge, I felt it come from, like, I mean, I swear it came up from my feet and, like, just through my heart and out of my eyes. And I just cried like I had never, like, I can't say like I've never cried before, because I've had some I've had some cries, but this was like another round. It was like I haven't cried like this in a long time. And to the point where I got on my hands and knees on the earth and I just released it. And I heard my voice saying, like, how in the Bible it says somewhere in there that, God, why have you forsaken me? And I was like, why have you forgotten me? Like, I've served, I have changed, I have put up with a lot of fucking bullshit in my life, and I've always found the light and always have used it to help. Why have you forgotten me? Where are my blessings? And I finally heard myself say, you have broken my heart. And that is when I just lost it. Because if there is one thing I have left, and if you know, like, the story of me, I have lost a lot, and I have chosen to let go of a lot. And I feel like I am here with nothing. And I have, in that moment up there, I hadn't felt that alone in my entire life. I had not felt so lost in my entire life. And when I heard myself say, like, the last thing I have had that has pulled me through these 2 years of this, I don't European journey that I've been on. I don't even know what it's, this pilgrimage. It's been a spiritual pilgrimage. I didn't set out for it to be that, but that's what it's become, because it's become a spiritual pilgrimage because this is where I have learned to rely on my faith. So when I heard my voice, I have something in my eye. When I heard my voice saying that, you have broken my heart, spirit. You have not been there for me. That was the last thing that I had. And I felt so alone, and I just let it go, cried it out. And of course, that was the day that I forgot to take a tissue. It was messy, it was sloppy. Oh, yeah, yeah, sorry, y'all. And I was spent. But when I was complete with the purge, I got up, we walked back down here, and when I got back down to this house, I make the dogs breakfast, I made myself coffee, I opened up all the doors and windows because it was, like, oddly really beautiful, and because it's been cold, but it was nice. And it was done. It was complete. That grief, that sadness. Oh, I missed the most important part of the story. As I was up there on my hands and knees, I literally felt, I mean, when I say literally, I literally felt my heart break. And I feel like I almost heard it crack open. And when I say that, I mean, it's kind of like this inner tonal ear, like tones that we're hearing. It's an inner sound. It's not exterior outside of us. It's how that sounded, but I literally felt like a open. And when I heard myself say, like, why have you've broken my heart? You've let me down, spirit. And my heart broke open. And that's when it was like, and more came out. And that's when it hurt so bad to feel it. It hurt so badly. But when I came back down here, I put some music on, making the dogs, all of it was gone. And I could take these breaths that I had, like these deeper breaths, and I haven't been able to take. And the interesting thing is, overnight, I had two dreams. The first one was a very visceral dream about, my life before everything exploded with my ex-husband. It's been 14, almost 15 years now. But in one night, I walked in on him with another woman, and since then, I have taken. There was these just compounded series of events that, in that moment, I knew my marriage was not gonna make it. I knew, it was something I could forgive, but I would never forget it. And what marriage can really, like, go on when you see your husband naked, pretty much, with someone else in your home while you're sleeping and your kids are right across the hallway. Like, the whole compounded experience of it, I knew was nothing that we could recover from. But I was so weak at that point, y'all. I didn't know my intuition. When I say weak, it was just weak in intelligence. I couldn't hear, I could hear my intuition. I can go back and understand all of the ways. I can remember all of the ways that I knew that marriage wasn't for me. But I just kept living into, I'm 28, my friends are married, they're having babies, it's time, he's fine. And it just kept going. And that moment I knew, just have him leave this house. And I didn't. And 10 years later, I finally was like, it's time to leave this house and it's time for a divorce. And in those 10 years, the compounded decisions over and over took me so far off course. And in my dream, I was so given the message. I was so shown. I was shown all of the ways. It was as if God, universe, spirit was showing me, I have never left you. Don't you remember this? Don't you remember hearing this from within? Don't you remember me showing you this? Don't you remember me saying, go this way? You went that way. I have never forgotten you. And I woke up and I was feeling sadness still, because I realized how much I had just ignored my higher self, my spirit, as it whispered for those 14 years that I spent with this man, 10 of them knowing this is not it. And I just was too weak and too afraid to listen. And I finally fell back asleep, and I felt very much at peace. And then I had another dream about my first love, my boyfriend that I was with for 6 or 7 years, who I was deeply in love with, and we had a mutual breakup, and we're still in love afterwards, and it was really beautiful, and an amazing man, and he was taking care of me, and I was blind, I couldn't see. And like, so when I woke up from that, I was like, it's interesting, these two loves in my life showed up, and both of them had this beautiful message for me. And as I sat with it again up at the top of the hill, what came to me, what the message was, is these breaks in your heart. When I broke up with my first boyfriend, my heart was broken because we were good. We were really good together. We just knew we were going in two different directions, and we knew it would end up not right anyway. So we did what I should have done with my ex-husband. But at the same time, it was still heartbreaking because we were beautiful friends. And the other heartbreak was, having your heart broken and like torn to pieces. And in that moment up there yesterday, my heart was torn to pieces again, because what I was shown this morning was I had to feel that heartbreak. I never let my heart break in the thing with my ex-husband. I never let it, I covered it up. Nobody knew what happened. My mother didn't know what happened. I was so embarrassed. I was so ashamed. We covered that shit up, and we just kept making decisions that were stupid decisions at this point now, but decisions just because we were trying to cover up what had happened and pretend like it, build something else, and put like a house of cards together that eventually fell anyway. But in that moment, I never let my heart break. So what I felt up there was my heart breaking open. And what I felt when I came down here, when I was making the dogs breakfast, I'm like, it's so strange. I am aware that grief and sadness and this broken heart is very much prevalent right now, but I don't really feel it. I'm almost numb to it, but not numbed out, just not attached to it. And as an empath who has been used to being attached to so many fucking emotions at every single moment, I didn't know what to do. It was an unknown. And what I spent time with, that's why I moved this peace talks, because I knew there was some juice to what I was moving through, but I couldn't quite articulate it yet. And it felt big enough to articulate it. There are so many of us that are moving through things right now that we are avoiding having our hearts broken. Or maybe you have done the same thing that I did. Just cover up. Don't feel that broken heart. I know that there is a lot of intensity right now. I was texting with someone in the middle of the night last night who I care about very much. And she was like, Vedette, I almost can't take it anymore. I'm hanging on by a thread. I can't handle this kind of emotion. And I was like, sit in it. Let yourself break. Let yourself break, because what I know about her is she would never let herself break and be vulnerable. She would fight through it and figure it out and just control. But when you just stop and lose control, like I did up on that hillside, and let the heart break, that is preparing us, that is training us, that's getting us to that 0 point to be able to live there. All those years ago, Gus was trying to move him out of my life, my ex-husband out of my life, in just 4 years rather than 14. But I was too afraid to feel that heartbreak. And that heartbreak would have opened me up and taken me to where I was yesterday, to that point where you get to that 0 point, and then that's where creation happens. I had to feel that heartbreak all these years later, and Lord have mercy, it hurt so damn bad yesterday. But within moments, within the hour, and I don't want to put tangible hours on it, but like it literally passed so quickly that I was standing here, feeling energy move through me through music and being with the dogs, and feeling, knowing that I was free. There was a freedom that happened when my heart cracked open in that moment, but I had to be willing to free it. And the story I gave it was that it was Gus that had let me down, but it was myself. And I sat up there and grieved at understanding for the first time that it was me that held myself back because I didn't listen. This is where we have to listen. We are having to be broken to get into the unknown of this emotional space where we are not attached to our emotions, where we are not putting stories to them anymore. That has been the programming of the false matrix. Give it a story, throw fire on it, gossip about it, dramatize it, give yourself credit for it, be a victim of it, fuel it. We are done with that. This is where we get to be in that 0 point where none of it matters anymore. It's not that it matters, but none of it controls us. None of it. We are the choosers of it. And all day today, these flares kept coming in. I was shocked watching my phone. Just flare after flare after flare. And remember, I said the other day, I think was it the last Peace Talks or two? I can't remember. One of them was called Primed. And the message is we are being primed. We are being primed for an explosion of consciousness, for an explosion of truth that is coming into our world, into our personal worlds. And in that moment, if we attach emotion, if we attach a story to it, if we go into fear, it will bring us down. It will devour us. We are being primed in these last couple of days, and I know many of you are feeling it. I've had the conversations in Storehouse Social, many of you saying, this and this and this is happening. I'm noticing this. And yet it feels different. I've heard the words unknown. I feel empty. I've identified a couple of those words in the comments, and they're all escaping now. But there's this unknown feeling that we're witnessing in ourselves, that we're observing. We're kind of like, why am I not like freaking out right now? Why it feels numb. It feels so quiet. That means we've done our work. That means we have gotten to that point. So when we are in that moment of massive expansion, we will breathe our way through it from the center of this moment. And in that centered place, we will just be able to observe all of these emotions happening as these revelations come into our consciousness, as the truth of whatever this revelation, these insights, this illumination, this expansion, this ascension moment brings. It's going to bring a lot. And for those of us who are cleansed and cleared, it'll bring a lot of light. It's going to bring a lot of light to everybody. But what it's going to light up is what we are, what we have gotten ourselves to. So for those who have been oblivious, who have remained asleep, who have avoided facing broken hearts, facing fear and grief and sadness, when that shit lights up, it's going to devour them. And they will have to choose at that point whether or not they move through it like we have, or do they just succumb to it. For those of us who are being primed, we are getting a practice run. I keep saying it, we're getting practice runs, and we're seeing and feeling all of the different symptoms we're feeling. And it's funny because today I went to take a deep breath in the morning, and I like took a deep breath and coughed. Like I had a almost like a chest cold, and I don't get sick. And I haven't had a cold in a long time. But it was interesting. My heart broke open. There was a lot released yesterday, and now taking a deep breath is taking some work. So my physical body is flushing out that stuff. So my physical body is still being primed. My physical body is now releasing even more energy that was released emotionally yesterday. So we will have physical symptoms. We will have emotional ejections really quick. Just like the sun is just flashing out flares, our emotional self, our strata, our mental strata are just firing out all that's not light, right? And that's where we just have to be in that space and just observe what's coming out. We can be down underneath the turmoil, but it's only when we get attached do we get sloshed around. The experience yesterday for me was I went down, but it was kind of like I was in a bubble and I was just moving through the churn until I popped back up on top and was making breakfast for my dogs. So that we are now protected. The more light we have around us, the more, because of the cleansing and the clearing and the purging that we have been courageously enough to face, we now have a bubble of light that is now what that unknown territory is. That's what came to me today. The unknown is just maneuvering through life without emotions pulling on you in every freaking direction. It's just us in a bubble being like, oh yeah, there goes some grief. Okay, see. Oh, there's that heartbreak. Yeah, that was some serious thing. Oh, that's where I was weak. Oh man, I used to beat myself up all the time about that. But there I go. It's there goes weak me right by. And we're floating. We're floating up and expanding out. This is our ascension. We are in it. We are in it, and we are being pulsed and primed forward and upward by these energies. And we have got to just stay there while those around us who maybe are still in the healing space, who are maybe still oblivious, it's going to be a painful journey. It's going to be painful, but we just have to stay and watch it, observe it, allow it to have its way with them, because that is how they ascend. We are no longer responsible for anyone else except ourselves. So this was the message that came through. It's been, again, moving through this and having this revelation, this light. So here's why it's been one last thing I just now realized. Why it's been so intense. When I come on here, I'm like, woo, I'm so tired. Look at all, like, I'm a mess. Why it has felt so intense is not because it's been so heavy these last 2 days, but because I'm getting more and more understanding and having these experiences with old stuff. And it's not the old stuff. Having these experiences used to mean I went deep and churned with it, but having the experience, but just being in my bubble and watching the experience and understanding it from a different place, there's still lots of energy moving, but it's illuminating, it's revealing more. I'm understanding more light. I'm understanding more. So again, the unknown is I'm moving through stuff without hurting so badly. I had that moment up there where it just hurt, but then it was good. It was done. It's kind of like when your shoulder pops out and you like pop it back in and it hurts. I've never had this, but I've seen it in movies. And it pops, if you pop it back in and they're like, ah, and they're like, okay. And 2 minutes later they're sword fighting and doing their thing that they do in whatever they do in the movies, and it looks like they're fine. So it's just kind of that kind of metaphor. It hurts for a moment, and that is the unknown. We are breaking into the unknown now. The other thing I think is really interesting as far as kind of the tonal frequencies, I'm hearing a lot more, especially when I lay down to go to bed. I'm hearing a lot more of like, and it's kind of like white noise underneath the tonal frequencies. And how I'm understanding that, like how I see that, is like that's movement, that's ascending into higher dimensional, into the higher vibrations. And it also reminds me too, because of what I'm experiencing as far as the 0 point and this being in this bubble space of, it's again, this bubble, how I see it is just, it's clean. The air is so fresh. It's like pure oxygen in this bubble, and everything else is happening around me. And this bubble is just moving up and it's expanding out. It's getting bigger, because as we ascend, we not only go up, but we expand out. And it's literally, I mean, I don't know, it's not literally, it feels as though it's, kind of the whole, the metaphor I used the other day when the spaceship goes to space, and it's real bumpy, super bumpy, going through the atmosphere, and then all of a sudden it's like and it's silence, but the white noise, that's how it feels. So I believe this bubble that we move into when we're in that 0 point, that space that maybe we'll call, I feel empty, I feel numb, but it's not numbed out so where you don't feel it. It's just numb in that you don't feel it, but you're observing it. It's a completely opposite expression of being numb or being empty. And now we're in this beautiful space where we're rising up, and we're just hearing the silence of the movement, like wind in your ears when you put you're on a free, beautiful spring day, you put your head out the window and you put your arms out and you're just living life, and it's just, you hear the wind. It's as if we're hearing the spiritual wind now. And it's a beautiful experience when we're in it and we're observing it. We just have to be in that space of understanding the 0 point is only accessed when we let ourselves break. So allow yourself to break into the unknown of 0 point of peace. Yesterday, the 0 point didn't feel like peaceful bliss. It just felt like silence. it felt empty and it felt really weird. And yet, what I know now is it's just another form of peace. Okay. Every emotion has a lot of different expressions. You know, anger has a lot of different ways it's expressed. We're learning all different ways that peace expresses. Sometimes it feels blissful. Sometimes it feels quiet. Sometimes it feels empty. Sometimes it just feels numb. And yet, all of it is in perfect divine order and alignment with your higher self and with spirit, with the 0 point space of creation. So that is the message for today. It was a beautiful couple of days. Oh my God. But they were intense. There was a lot of understanding that came, and with understanding comes a lot of brain overload, mind overload. Okay. Oh, we got another one, Jessica. No, we did. Yes, a moderate one. I see that. That was my NEP yesterday, Carolyn. Carolyn, thank you so much for your donation, lady. I did send you an email right before I got on here. So I super, super appreciate this. So if anyone feels spiritually fed today and learned something and you'd like to donate to the platform or me, I would be grateful to accept it. Grand Rising, what the fuck is going on, right? I mean, literally, like when you lose count, this, and that's, I was texting my mom too. I was like, Mom, because she's kind of just starting to understand, like not understand, but kind of getting into this languaging and the watching the, I don't think she's really watching the solar flares, but I'm kind of making her watch them. So it's like, look at all these solar flares and then look at the I'm just showing the correlation between these energies coming in, and when we get alerts we kind of have like tangible evidence, and with the intensity of emotions that are running high. So I'm like, just look, make the correlation. When this is coming in, we know we can expect a lot of emotional strife. So just sitting there and just letting them pass. But like today I was like, Mom, this is unprecedented. It's no wonder we're all like, bah, because I mean, it used to be that we didn't even get 30 solar flares in a whole solar cycle, which is like a year, and we just got, I mean, I'm gonna say guess it's about 30 at this point, because it was when I counted last, it was like in the 20s, and I woke up and I had like a whole page full of alerts. So we're pretty close to 30. So getting that many in the last 24 hours, that's massive. That is massive amounts of energy. So the fact that we're still like talking and comprehending what's going on in the world, like I think we're doing good, y'all. Tarla says, but also one of the most beautiful and profound moments. Not sure, but yes, I'm gonna say yes to that. Brenda says, I'm feeling numb to the death of my dad. I have moments of extreme emotions, but most of the time my broken heart is almost under anesthesia. I feel like it's interesting you said use that word. I feel like because I was surprised with how painful that moment was when I heard and felt that break. And again, that was the break that I never allowed to really happen. But because it cleared so quickly, I feel like, I mean, I could call it the energies, but I feel like our teams are the beings of light that are helping us. Call them angels, archangels, ascended masters, whatever works for you, Gus. I mean, let's just go right to source. Gus is helping to ease it for us a little bit. Yes, these energies are like spiking things up, but I also feel like we're wrapped in, like in this loving presence that is helping to ease our pain. We have never, as a human species, been through anything like this. And I think how we are being helped is also unknown territory for for beings that are helping us, our galactic, call them whatever, our teams. So how, they are helping as much as they can for as much as we ask. So I'm always like, every power up prayers, I'm like, and allow me to enter this with ease and grace. Help me have this be easy. Whatever the power up prayer is, I always include somewhere in there, just ease and grace. And as the more we ask for help, the more they are helping us to ease the pain. So there's I think, Brenna, like what I'm hearing to make sure we're there's a difference between numbing out and not wanting, choosing not to feel. And then there's the numb of like, it's all, being helped and being in this the unknown space of it not hurting so much, not attaching to it, knowing it's there, knowing that pain exists, knowing that the loss is there, but just not attaching to it. You are a completely different Brenna now than would have been 3 years ago if he passed 3 years ago, where we were more in tune to attach to grief and like and loss. So there's a very different operating system. Remember, like we've been talking about that. We have a completely different operating system now. Loss isn't what it has been taught to us. So there's this somewhere in you. I think that there's a knowing. There's a beautiful knowing that knows he's not far, that he's not lost. So the grief may not be as big all the time, because there is a part of you that maybe hasn't come into consciousness yet, conscious awareness, but there's a part of you that is in contact. And that's the help. That's the help. He's offering the help and ease with this. I don't know if that resonates. If it doesn't, just let it go. But that's what just came through for me. Loss is going to be completely different from us all, and I think too, because I think we're going to see a lot of loss in these next, months, years. I think, not that I think, these energies, however long this takes, we're all going to experience some loss. And like, I don't want to be, the bearer of bad news, but I'm going to be the bearer of truth. We know how hard these energies are. And for those who haven't even, have avoided and haven't woken up to it, when that moment finally comes, it's going to be extremely intense. And there will be people who just cannot, their bodies can't take it. So we are being primed to understand loss and death in a different way. They simply ascend, they choose an exit point, and they ascend to the world that is perfect and divine for them in this moment. And we are connected in spirit. So as we ascend, as we do our work and move into the higher and expanded states of consciousness, we then will consciously be aware of how to connect into all of these different worlds of existence, where the connection is much clearer than it is when someone leaves our physical reality now and years prior. We're getting better, and we're going to be trained on how to connect and communicate, and that's already happening on a higher self kind of version. So I think the connection's still connected, just the body's not there, and it'll make more and more and more sense. And the beautiful thing is, when you're not in the deepness of grief, you're in that 0 point, that place of emptiness. That's when the connection becomes more and more understood. That's just what comes up for me. As emotions came up yesterday, I just acknowledged them and let them roll off. I was expecting a crazy day, and I know more are coming, and it was actually good. That's how it was. Yeah, I know this is going to intensify. I know it's going to be, but the fact, like, I mean, if we just keep that image of being in a bubble and just kind of riding through, it's like, remember well, I don't know, my kids went to this birthday party once, and everyone got in a bubble and like ran around. It was like little mice in a ball. It was hilarious. But that's how I have it. But it's a clear bubble, and I have it like, I can like breathe in it. Like, it's like that pure oxygen, and it's clear, and you just kind of like walk through or float through all of the gunk and the worldly stuff that's going around. And so it kind of bounces off. It can't attach to you. It just bounces off the bubble. You see it, and then it bounces off. I think because the more clearer we become, and the more we are staying in that 0 point bubble, it's not going to take hold like it used to. The energy from all these feathers is shaking loose the density in us. Yeah. and our purging is flushing it out. Exactly. Yes, this makes so much sense. So grateful for my protective bubble. Me too. Great message. Thank you. Blessings. Thanks, Carolyn. Oh, yeah. Identify as broken. Yeah. Poor this soul. Whoa. I've been broken. My mom left this work in 2012, right before the shift. I have grown so much since then. I know she's been with me the whole time. She just didn't have the strength to experience it in physicality. Yeah, I think that's the physical part is going to be the hardest part for a lot of people on this journey, and it could be for us too. I don't know. I know for today, like the way. But here's the thing: what I was very aware of today is when there was a point when I was like, I need to sleep. And I think that's really important because when, like, the big thing comes, we know exactly, we're going to be guided. We're going to be guided on how to navigate through this corridor of a moment in time. And when I slept, like, I knew there was work being done. I because the sleep was so deep, and when I woke up disoriented, that usually means there's a lot of energetics that are being integrated. And there was a moment, like there was an ascension in that time frame of sleep. So we cannot avoid, the call to sleep, because that's the easiest way for us to integrate these energies back to back. And the other thing too, like compounded interest, like steer with me. I promise I've got a point here. I'm taking a little segue, but like in the inverted matrix of banking, like compounded interest was like a great thing because it compounded over time and it expanded. These solar flares back to back to back to back to back to back to back times 30 or whatever it's been in the last 24 hours, they have compounded. So we have not even really gotten into the full effect of them. And I think that's going to be coming in over the next coming into our being, integrating in the next couple of days. So it could be quite a couple of days. So just be aware of that. They have compounded and kind of grown on each other. So it comes, as it comes in, it's going to come in as its own like big presence, is how I see it. So it could like overtake us at, in different moments in time as these like massive energy waves and, beams come in. So just, prepare yourself. Like, don't schedule too much. Drink lots of water. Although I'm having lemonade now and it's really nourishing me for some reason, but water, allow yourself, maybe just make it like a cozy weekend and, curl up on the couch, allow yourself this time to integrate. Cause when the bigness of these hit, I think it's going to be pretty intense. And but again, intensity is showing up in different ways. It's like intensely beautiful and in the intensity of work. But again, being in the bubble, it's not going to be, neither intensity is going to take us over. We're just going to be observing it. So okay, I'm tired. That was a lot of talking, a lot of processing. And I so enjoy you all. Thank you for being here. Thanks for the conversation in Storehouse Social. I really I like the participation because I like to assemble the evidence. Like, is it just me experiencing this? But when I see all of you kind of chiming in, it really just puts a lot of puzzle pieces together, and it helps me understand the messages more and more and more. And they just always seem to rely, or they're always in resonance. They're always in resonance. So I know what we're getting is high intelligence. I know it's on target. I know we're going somewhere. We're going somewhere, and we're being prepared. So just be aware. All right, everybody. I will see you on Sunday on the next Peace Talks. Until then, I'll be in Storehouse Social, popping in here and there. And have a good one and take care of yourself. Loving compassion, choose you first, and take care of yourself. Okay? Mwah. Love to you all. Bye.